Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create this modern registration screen as well as the login screen. So for this tutorial, these are input fields here have different states. So if I select the full name here, we can actually change this to selected, and you notice that this automatically changed. And then we can decide to say, okay, this has already been filled, and you see the name here will automatically change as well. Let me select the email here and say, okay, we have an error. We can display this, and then you see automatically we have a red border around this because this is an error field. What if you want to display the message to the user? We have another property here that said show message here. So this is going to now display the message to the user. And then we can select this and then try to play with all the states that we have here. So the default, it means this has not been filled. You see automatically this text changes to this color, so as well as the password. And you can decide to hide the icons here, and we can decide to also hide the labels, that if you don't want the label on your input fields. So now, but for this particular login, we are keeping the labels. So we also have other screens that was created from this tutorial designs here. You see we have this other variation, and then this is not using, okay, this is using the white background, and then you see we have our input changed to the previous background. And then we also have a quick login that was created also from this design. So if you're new to my channel, please kindly hit the subscribe button and let's get into it. To get started, I've already arranged some of the colors we're going to be using for this project, so you can pause the video and copy the colors. So now, if you're typing directly, we want to create some local style here. So you can click on the empty space and then click on the local style. Select colors and then type the color name, which is primary, and then you can now change the hexadecimal. So since I'm having these designs here, all I need to do is to select the rectangle and then click on the 4 dots here, and then I can now click on the plus sign, then add the primary color. I'm going to do the same thing for this other section here. I'll select the red color, and then this is going to be danger. So here I'll select the same thing and I'll do this. So one last color we need to add that is not here is the dark color. So I'm going to click on the plus sign, or you can click on the plus sign for the colors, and then here we can add dark, and I will be using 1C, 1C, and 1C for that. So now we can click on create styles. So once we've done that, we can now start our design. To get started, I'll click on the frames here and add the iPhone 13 mini. So this is going to be our frame that we're going to be using. Then let's add a layout grid to this. I'm going to click on the settings here and select columns. This time I want to use 2 columns, that's for the design, and then for the margin I'll stick to the traditional 20. Here, everything we're working with, it's going to be an 8-point grid system. So now I'm sticking to 20, and then we can close this. Now let's enable the ruler on your design. To do that, click on the Figma icon here, and then where we have the view, make sure that the ruler is checked. If it's not, now we can now drag this here and then drop this, and let's do the same for this other section. So I'm going to zoom in and make sure that this is aligned properly to this. So I'll zoom out and do this same thing for this. Once I have this, I can select the frame and then hide this our design. So now let's apply our first color variable by selecting this iPhone 13 mini, and where we have the fill, I'm going to use this and we are going to apply the background. So to create our form input, I'm going to be using frames instead of the traditional auto layout. So we're going to select frames and then drag this somewhere here, and the first thing is let's just add a fill to this to differentiate this from our background. So for this, I want the height of this to be 40. So this is the universal height for an input field. So if it is a small input field, you can use 40. For large input field, you can switch that to 48. So but for this, we are going to be using 40. Now, let's add a stroke to this. But we already have the color we're going to use, so let's select the 4 dots here and then click on the stroke. Now we've applied stroke to our input. Select this particular input field and let's change the corner radius to 4. Once this has been changed to 4, we can just drag this outside now to work on this properly. So we have our measurement. So let's add a text field inside this section. This is going to be enter email or email address. So once we have this, the next trick is I always try to extend this to maybe half of this here. Then let's click on this to align our text to left hand side. Since we're using the frame, we are going to manage the alignment ourselves. Then let's add an icon to this input field. So I'll click on the resources icon. So let's search for Iconify here. Make sure you're clicking on the plugin text here, then search for Iconify. So now once we open Iconify, we are going to search for eye. Now let's look for the appropriate eye we can use for this project. I'm going to pick this. So drag this and drop this on your screen. So if you pick any icon here and it's too big, don't worry about that. I will show you how to resize that. Now that we have this, I can now select this item here. That's this. We can lock this section and change the size to 16. Once this is 16, we can now convert this to a component. So this, we can double click here and then just change this to eye. So now this is our first component. So now click on the assets file here. Let's drag this eye and drop it in here. So now, once we have this item here and then this second item here properly aligned, let's change the color of these two items to muted. So I'm going to select the two by holding shift and then just the selection, and then we can apply muted. So these two items are not grouped. So let's drag this item here and then try to just create a space. That's the padding here. It's 15, so I'm just going to reduce this to 12. So my text, I'm going to drag this, push this somewhere here to 12. So I'm going to select this and do the same thing for this other section here just to get the margin, since we're not using auto layout, and I'll show you why. So here I can select this, just drag this somewhere here. We have this. So now I can delete this item here. So if I select this item and I drag this, we want this to be able to move along with this action that I'm taking. So I'll undo this. So select this item here. So on the constraint here, because this is inside the frame, I want this to move towards the right. So now see what happened when I select this and I drag this here. This is going to keep moving towards the right. So here we make sure that it's also moving towards the left if the user, okay, it's already set. So now if I select this and then I drag this, you see it's going to increase towards the left. So I'll undo that. But what happens when the user tries to increase this here? So let's set that. I'm going to select this and set from top here. We want this to be centered if the user is going either up or down. That's the direction here. The same thing with this. If the user is going up or down, we want to maintain the position to center. I'm going to select this frame and then drag this. You see, we have all the behaviors. Now that we have this, let's add our label. So now I'll click this and then add a label. So this label, I'm going to change the color to dark. So this is going to be our label. Control D here. I'm going to create another one here. This is going to be our message. So for the message, I want this to be 8 here, just smaller than this. So let's select these three items. Item 1, hold shift, select this and then this. Press shift A to put this in an auto layout. And because these items are related, we are going to adjust the spacing between them to 4. So now once we have this adjusted, we want this here. When I'm increasing this, I want this to also increase. So to do that, this is an auto layout. So we can select the inner item here and say fill container. So it's going to respond to that. So I'm going to undo this step here and then select this item and then just change this to fill container. So now that I have this, I can select this item here and then drag this here. Let's say we are going 355 here, like this. We can have this. If you're going beyond that, you're still going to have this your design here. So we're sticking to the 355. Now that we have this, we've completed our form. So we need to convert this to components and add some properties to this item. So let's click on this to convert our item to component. Now I'll double click here and then rename this to impute. So let's add our property. So double click here for the first item, that is our text. Let's do this and then create a property called label. That's the first property. Then this other one, make sure you're selecting this item here, which is the text. We want to create another property. This is going to be create property. Automatically it knows that it's a text, so the name is going to be message. So we have this, which is our placeholder. We are also going to create a property for that, so we're going to use this placeholder. Once we have this, we also have this other item here, which is our icon. So the property we need to create here, it's this. So I'm going to make sure that I have this. I'm going to create this and then say icon. So for most of this, there are input fields you create and then you don't want this to be visible. So now let's create a property that can hide and show this. Make sure you're selecting the text and then click on this dot here. That's for layers. So this is going to be show label. By default, we can set that to true. So here as well, I'm going to create a property. Once you select the text, show message now. Once we have this, create property, which is going to be show message. We can also set that to true as well. Then let's also do the same for this icon. Select this. We are looking for layer. Click on this here and then create a new property. This is going to be show eye, but we can just say show icon here. By default, we want that to be true. So now that we've created and applied all these properties, let's create variants for this. So the first one, I'm going to select this and then click the plus sign here. This time it's going to be, let's say, selected here. That's the first state. So if this item is selected, we want to change the border color. That's the stroke. So I'm going to select this and change this to primary. So it means this has been selected. So the next thing we want to create is it has been selected and then it has been filled. So we can select this item here and then just press Ctrl D here. It's going to create another variant. So this is going to be filled. So instead of having this default property 1, and we can just say this is the state of this form here. So for this here, I can now select this placeholder. Let's change the color from muted to dark. That means this has been filled. So now, since it has been filled, we can say the focus is no longer here. So we can change our stroke. So here I can just check this, double click to make sure I'm selecting this where I have the primary. I'm just going to change that to our stroke color here. So this has been filled. Now the next thing we want is an error section. So I'm going to select this, Ctrl D to duplicate this. This is going to be error state. Now for the error state, I want to change the color of this here to from dark to danger. And then as well as the message from this, I'm going to change that to danger here. Then let's also change the stroke color from this to danger. So now this is an error input field if there's an error. So let's start designing our screens. I'm going to click on this here and then drag this and drop this here. Let's say here. So because of this, now I can just adjust this here. And then if you look at this, we have our input field. So for the label, we can just change that here to enter email. So you see we have that here. So for the enter email, which is the placeholder, we can just put example@gmail.com. So this is how we want the format to be. So for the message, by default, we don't want to show this message. So here we can just decide to where we have the show message. I can just check that out and then you see it's gone. So now I can select this and then Ctrl D here. Let's just do this. Let's say this, I'm just going to change this to full name like this. Then where we have here, I will just put John Doe here for the full name. So you see we have this. But for this icon now, these are not password field. So what we want to do here is I want to change this or just hide the icon completely, since that is not a field that requires the icon to be there. So we want to hide this. So now we also want to do something here for our field state here. So once the user has maybe filled this item, we want to change the icon. So for the state here, I think we can just grab iconify again, and I'm going to use the cancel here. Cancel. So we can search for that, and you can pick any of this. So I'm going to pick this, drag this, and then drop this here. So we want to change the size of this to 16 here, 16. And we can convert this to a component by clicking this and zoom in so that we can see the name, or you can click on layers back and we can just double click here and then rename this to cancel here like this. So now that we have this icon, I'm just going to come in here, select this item here where we have the icon. That's what I want to change. So I will just change this from I to cancel here. So I'll prefer to keep this, and for this, let's just duplicate this again here. So quickly, I just want to illustrate how we can use the password icon. So for the placeholder here, I'm going to change that to password like this, and then the same thing with the label. This is going to be password. And if we want to change the icon now, it's pretty easy. So now for the password, let's show this icon here. So now once we've shown this icon, we can now select this and then change this icon to an icon here. So you see we have this. So now I think one last item we need to add here. So let's say I'll duplicate this and just say phone number if we have that. So here this is just going to be, let's say +2 3 4 some numbers here, and I'll press enter. So instead of enter email, I'll just say phone number here. So now that we have these items here, we need to put them in an auto layout. So I'm going to select these items, press Shift A to put them in an auto layout. So the spacing between them, I'll set them to 8. So let's select this. I think we can do better with 12. So now let's say we have an error state here. For this, all you need to do is to select this field and then change this to an error state. But right now you notice that the error message is not visible. So we need to select this and then make sure that we are displaying the error message here. So now here we can now have the message, which we can say invalid email address here. So we have our error. So if it's a message that you want to display, let's say password message, I can now select this, and then we have show message. So here for the message, I'm just saying password at least 2 special, let's see, characters. It's like this or some, yeah. So for the password now, we can just do better with our statement. So the good thing is you can come in here and then try to play around with the color. You can detach it because this is an instant. You can modify it to suit into your project. So but this is the message, and then we have this. So let's just quickly try to create a simple logo here. So to do that, I'm going to select the pen tool here. Make sure you're selecting the pen here. So we can now do this, hold shift, just a straight line here, just nothing difficult. I'm going to select this here, then we can have this somewhere here, this just somewhere above this, and then we can have somewhere here. We can stop here, or you can just go one step down just to have something like this. Now we can select this, and then let's change the stroke here to 4, and then for the, and then we can just use the rounded for this, and for this, let's see, we can use 4 here, and you can adjust the size of this, something like this, and we can fill the stroke with our primary color. So this is going to be our logo. So let me select this other section also has to be rounded. So here we can add a name for this, which is spiral gig, like this, and we can increase this to 14. Set the font here, we can get bold here, should do, and this is going to be a primary color for this. So now select this items here, and I believe if we can just adjust this a little, it's 12, and then select these 2 items, shift 8, put them in an auto layout. So we have our logos, then we can just try to adjust this design down here. So now try to center this. So now once we have this, now let's just quickly try to create a button. So what we can do here is to create a new frame here again. So for this frame, let's just set the height to 40, and then we can just change the fill here to our primary color. You can even add a stroke to that, and let's check the width of this. We can just make that 355 here, like this, and then our text, it's going to be sign up. So sign up here, and this is going to be medium, and I'm going to center this here. Once this is properly centered, let's just arrange this, set this to 4, and we have our button. So I'm just going to double click, and then this is going to be a button, and let's convert this to a component. This here, it's now going to be our title. So now we can grab this button here and then drop this here. So I'm just going to adjust the size of this. So now let's try to open this in a mobile mockup. To do that, we are going to select any of the phones here. So I'm just using iPhone 13 mini. So let's select this and then press shift and then the spacebar on your keyboard. You notice how well aligned this looks. So now let's just add some few things here, like the sign up with Google form, and then some terms and condition. I have some text already copied on my clipboard, so I just want to paste them here. I just want to paste the text here, so I'll just drag this, make sure it's between this, then paste. Please let's click back on the design, and let's try to align this towards the center here. So we have this. So here, let's create a variation for this button. Let's drag this guy down here. So I'm going to select this. Before we continue, let's go back to our Iconify, and then let's search for Google here. So this is going to be Google, and we are looking for, okay, I think I'm going with this here. So we can close this back and lock this our design. So let's try 16 here and see how it looks. So if we have 16 here and then this is how it looks, we can now convert this to a component here. So now double click, not this, I have to zoom in. So here this is going to be Google here. So now that we have the Google here, I can now drag this and then drop this somewhere here inside. So for these two items, we want them to be in an auto layout. These two items. So I'll press Shift, select these two items, Shift A to put them in an auto layout. Just make sure they are aligned towards the center. And for these two items, if we select this and try to align them toward the center here. So for this icon, we don't want this to be visible all time till the user wants it to be visible. So let's select this, make sure that we're given good space in between these two items. So I'm using 8 for that. And then we can now double click to select this single item here. So now you can now click on this here and then say icon. Now after that, you can also select the layer here and set show Google. So it's going to be show icon. So you can keep the Google. So by default, I just want this to be false. I don't want that to be visible. So for the second item here, I can select this and then let's add a variant for this. So this is going to be outlined here. So now for this, let's select this. I just forgot to do one thing. Let's add a stroke here for this. So but the stroke here, it's going to be primary. So I'm going to select this primary here. So the same thing for this, I'm going to just add a stroke for this. And then this time it's not going to be primary. It's going to be our stroke color. So our primary color here, we're going to minus that. And then this white color here, it's going to turn to dark here, dark. So we have this. Then we can now bring this here. Let's drag, or we can duplicate this. Ctrl D, drag this here, just change that here to the outline. So for the outline, we can just show the icon and we can just continue with Google. So I think my spelling of continue, I have double I here, so I just need to take that one out. So we have continue with Google. Let's make sure that the height is 40 as well. So here we need to create the or. So we need to create this other section. So I'm going to use a stroke to do that. So I'm going to select this here and then we can click done, and I'm going to Ctrl D to do the same. We just have this somewhere here. So I'm going to select the 2 by pressing Shift A. Make sure that okay, we can maintain this stroke. Yes, that looks nice, but this should be 1. So here we can increase the size of this to, let's say, 130 each. So now we can try to, I think still the 130 looks too small for each of this. Let's select this and go 160 here. Okay, so let's see where this is increasing to. So we can push this back in here, somewhere here. So now we can add our text here, which is or. So we can tell the user you have the option to log in with your Gmail, or you can, the user have an option to sign up, or they can use their Gmail to sign up. So now here we can just select the text muted here, so it might be too bright for this. So the stroke, we're going to do the same thing here, muted. Let me select this and change this to muted. I'll do the same thing for this. I'll change this to muted. So now I think this is too bright. What we're going to do here is select these 2 items here. Let's detach this instance here. So I'm going to detach this as well. So here, just get something light here. So if this works, so this also stroke, we can just change that to E2, E2, E2 here. So I don't know where that stroke is coming from, but let's select this item here and then change the stroke to E2, E2, E2. So yes, I think we have this design here. So select these items, just Shift A to put them in an auto layout, and then we can maintain that height or spacing between them. So we can now rearrange these items here. So I'm going to push this down here. So we need to display at least a message to the user if they are not if they are already signed up, so you can just log in. So here I can just type already registered. So we're asking the user, then we can tell them to just, oh, if you're already registered, just sign in. So this should be the link to the sign in page. So to make sure that this is a link, let's just change this. I'm going to highlight that and change that to our primary color. So we have this. So let's do the calculation now here. So we have this item. So this item and this item, Shift A, put them in an auto layout. I'm just going to adjust the spacing to 12 here. So now if 12 looks too small here, let's just give that 16 here. So now we have a good distance. So these two items here, item 1 and 2, they are closely related. Shift A to put them in an auto layout. So let's give them 8 here between them. So for this item, I'm going to push this somewhere close here. And for this, it's an OR. Let's make that 16 here, because we want this to be grouped with these items. So if I drag this and I want this to be part of the auto layout, so this is going to be 16 each. For this, we have our OR sign up here. Then by doing this is just a disclaimer. So we can now select this item 1, 2, and 3. Shift A to put them in an auto layout. Still here, I'll make sure that the spacing between them can go as much as 24. So now if we select this item here and then I press Shift and then the space bar here, you see we have this design, and then this looks very, very professional. Once we have this, let's try to just create some little modification for this. I'm going to select the whole screen and then Ctrl D to duplicate this. What if we want the background here to be white? So instead of background color, I'm just going to detach this and convert this to white here. If this is white, then what I'm going to do with this is each of this item here, each of this item that is having a white background. So I just want to just target the white background here and say we want to change this to our background color. So this is how it's going to look if you want to use the white color as your background. So we just swap the colors and you see this still looks very, very good. If you duplicate this here and then let's try to create just the login without this other items here. I'm just going to delete this, and then let's say we are just needing the email and the password for the login. So if we do this, you see we still have our design. And I think one thing I forgot was to just group this together with the logo. So but anyways, this still works perfectly. And then you see our login system looks nice because we followed the 8-point grid system, and we also align our items properly. So if you're new to my channel and you want to see more tutorial videos like this, please kindly hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.